as an anchor for my soul. I can say it is well. Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. The victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise when he calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise on eagle's wings before my God. Fall on my knees and rise. I will rise. There's a day that's drawing near, when this darkness breaks to light, and the shadows disappear, and my faith shall be my eyes. Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. Victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise when he calls my name. No more sorrow. No more pain. I will rise. taken care of, thanks to you. You told us not to worry, but we do. Though the storms may fall for hours, there is a blessing in every shower. It's all taken care of, thanks to you. In this world, we lose our battles now and then, but in the midst of defeat, we'll just try again. So when we face this stormy weather, it's time to claim this victory you gave us. It's all taken care of, thanks to you. It's all taken care of, thanks to you. You told us not to worry, but we do. Though the storms may fall for hours, there is a blessing in every shower. It's all taken care of, thanks to you. There are times that we pray, but all stay the same. Yet your people, we are humble. Glory, 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 hallelujah. Glory to his precious name. Glory, 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 hallelujah. Glory,
My brothers and sisters in the Christ. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Jesus is coming back again. Yes, my friends. This is one of my favorite songs, sung by no other but Claudette Clark. When I was a boy growing up, this was my special song. I would listen and enjoy this gospel artist. Yes, welcome again to a time in his word where we get deep into God's word and understand what is at hand. Jesus is coming again. Come on, somebody. Turn to your neighbor and tell them, Jesus is coming again. Are you ready? Are you ready? Come on. Don't stop getting ready and be ready, because in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the trump of God shall sound, and the dead in Christ shall rise first, and they that are alive then will be caught up to meet him in the air. I want you to Enjoy this song in the background as we sing about the mighty King, Jesus Christ. Yes, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Glory to his precious name. Glory, glory, glory.
Glory, hallelujah, glory to
Coming back again. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah.
yes, sir.
Precious name. Oh Lord, glory.
Glory,
Glory, hallelujah.
glory,
Coming back again. Glory,
glory, hallelujah. Yes, glory, glory, hallelujah. He's coming back again. Amen, amen. Let us pray. Father, we thank you again for your mercies and for your goodness and for your loving kindness. It's better than life. We worship and we adore you. We bow down before you and we say, God, who is like unto you? You're our bridge, you're our ship, you're our fortress, you are our problem solver, our burden bearer, our way maker, light in the darkness. Hallelujah. Father, as we get into your word, we ask for your inspiration. We ask for your Holy Spirit touch and presence as we continue to dig deep into your word. Help us to be ready, for we know you're coming back again. Hallelujah. I pray for those who are out there that is tuning in to our midweek Bible study, time in the Word. Lord, as we look on the warfare that will take place in the future with the dragon and Michael and the angels, help us to understand what this means as a believer. Father, we give thee thanks for today. For this is the day that you have made, and we will rejoice in it and be glad. Hallelujah to you, O God, forever and ever. Bless us tonight as we get into your word. Touch those who are listening. Encourage their heart. Encourage their mind. Encourage their spirit. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Welcome to a time in his word as we dig a little deeper into what the word of God is saying to us in this time that we are living in. As we are in the book of Revelation. Yes? Revelation chapter 12, reading from verse 7 to, verse 7 to 12. Yes. But let me do a quick recap. Last week we looked at the woman, the dragon, and when it talks about the woman, what it means. Yes? We look at that where the dragon and his agent, what's the meaning of some of the devil name, like Satan, the ancient serpent, and the devil. Remember I said it means, the devil means accuser of the brethren, and the ancient serpent means deceiver, and devil means tempter, schemer, oppressor. So we look at that. Who is the red dragon? And we have come to the conclusion that the red dragon refers to Satan. Amen? Yes, Satan. We look and when the Bible talk about woman, what is he talking about? What's the Bible is talking about when it refers to woman in the Bible? And woman represent nation. And in this case, the woman that the Bible talk about here is referring to Israel. And they talk about the woman with child. And that child is Jesus Christ, who was promised to come. Yes. So that was what we looked at last week. Yeah? So let us move on into our study as we understand what the Bible is saying to us. Well, let me just briefly back up to verse 5 of chapter 12. And it says, and she shall brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, unto his throne. This is in Revelation, and this is talking about Jesus Christ. The word of God has promised from the beginning of Genesis chapter 15, yes, that this man-child and redeemer of mankind would be of the seed of Abraham, yes, and the lineage of King David. And indeed this promised Messiah, the Lord Jesus Christ, came just as he was prophesied, yes, riding on a donkey, right, of a borrowed donkey. We see Zechariah prophesied that in Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9. While the disciple and his faithful followers, both believers and receiver, are both believe and receive him, the nation of Israel neither recognize nor receive him as the Messiah. So Jesus in his days has many followers, right? And they believe him. But Israel never accept him, never recognize him as the Messiah. Rather, they condemn him as an impostor. That's what Israel did. They condemned Jesus Christ as an impostor and had him crucified. And her child was caught up unto God. Can you imagine that these scriptures were there? Acts chapter 1 verse 9 talks about it. John 1 verse 11 to 12 says, he came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as receive him, to them he gave power to become what? Sons of God. Even to them that believe on his name. Can I get a hallelujah out there? So during Christ's 1,000-year reign to come on earth, he will rule all nations with a rod of iron. We find this description regarding him in Revelation also. Chapter 19, verse 50 onward. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nation and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treaded the winepress of the furnace, and wrath of the Almighty God. Our Lord, who first came to Israel, meek as a lamb, yes, for the slaughter, will return as the mighty roaring lion from the Lion of Judah, and slay the enemy of his heavenly Father. So I wanted to touch on this a little because I didn't touch on it last week. What Revelation chapter 12 was talking about when he says the woman and the child. Remember, the woman represents Israel and the child represents Jesus Christ. Now, Revelation 12:6 says, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared of God. I did not touch that last week, and I want to touch it this week. That they should feed her there and 1,203 days. What is that? 1,203 score. What that is saying, it is referring to the time of the tribulation this time will add up to 3.5 years. A place of refuge, verse 13, my friend, of chapter 12. We will see that. That of this same chapter will more closely address this woman, Israel, with respect to why she must flee to the wilderness and how God will protect her during the last 3.5 years of the tribulation time. Yes? In the meantime, I want to focus our attention on the following verse. The war which will be fought in the heaven between Michael and his angel and the evil force of the dragon. So this week, we want to focus on war in heaven. What I want to focus on this week, war in heaven. There is going to be a war in heaven. Let us turn our Bibles to Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 to 12, and understand what this means. Hear what Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 to 12 says. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angel fought against the dragon. Yes? And the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. What did they do? They did not prevail against Michael and his warrior angels. Good God Almighty. Hallelujah. Neither was their place found anymore in heaven, and the great dragon was cast out. I want you to take a note of that. The great dragon was cast out. Pay attention. That old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world, he was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accuse them before our God day and night. And they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. I feel a shout in this place. And they love not their life unto the death. Therefore rejoice ye heaven, and he that dwell in them. So this is what Revelation talks about. That there will be a war in heaven, and Satan and his foe will be cast out. I remember a couple weeks ago, I told our friends on the media that Satan has a kingdom, and he has set up his headquarters now in Europe. Amen. Once it was in Africa, but the gospel is preaching all over Africa. So he is not at peace when he is in Africa, because once you continue to preach God's word, it terrorizes the kingdom of darkness. But if you keep silent, evil will run rampant in our land. And I want to say this to us as Jamaican, that we must continue to preach the word of God on social media platform as much as you can. Oh, come on. Let the kingdom of darkness be an ease. Amen, somebody. Hallelujah. So the enemy has set up his headquarters in the European region. For there's a lot of people in that region don't practice Christianity, don't believe in God, don't practice all different type of witchcraft and evil practices. And I want you to understand, my friend, that Satan is the prince of the air. Here we have seen it in the Bible, where the Bible says there will be a war, and Satan will be cast out. Did you know that the enemy presently, each time we sin, he goes up into the presence of God and accuses us and says, look on what John is doing. And he say he is a child of God. So every time you sin, Satan go up and says, look at him. He is the accuser of the brethren. But there is a time coming in the Bible, in Revelation, where it says he will be cast down to the earth. Revelation 12:7 portray and indicate conflict in heaven, in addition to the facts we glean from Daniel chapter 10. If you read Daniel chapter 10, you will see where there was a war in the heavens. Paul tells us that there is a ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. And we see that in Ephesians chapter 2 verse 2, and with Ephesians chapter 6 verse 10 to 16, we also see where it talks about principalities and powers and wicked spirit in high places at work. Paul statement with that he said of Satan in Job. We see also in the book of Job chapter 1 verse 6 to 12 and chapter 2 verse 1 to 2, where we learn that Satan has occupied the region above the earth and had accused or access to the presence of God from the time of his origin revolt against God until the present. Amen. His will retain this posture. He will retain this position, my friend, until he is hauled into the earth in the end time. And we see that in Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. Thus, as the tribulation reaches a critical point, Satan and the evil angel who follow him will lose their place in the heaven. Come on, church. As Michael and the other angels of God do what? Overpower them. Michael and the other angel will overpower Satan and he will be thrown to the earth. Such a war in the heaven will have a mighty impact on earth. Yes. In fact, those who live on earth are warned about this in no uncertain terms. Look on verse 12. Amen. With time running out, my friend, Satan will work with diabolic fury. You hear that word? Diabolic. Extreme evil. He will be so furious against earth in a final attempt to frustrate God's plan. He will attempt for the final time to frustrate the plan of God. Up to this point, Satan has been permanently the accuser. Yes? Or preeminently the accuser. He has used the special method of accusation to do what? To attack godly people through history. Satan, as we see in the reference in Job, accused believers before God. And he tried to make them feel guilty over their sin. Friends, whenever you have done something wrong, repent, ask God for forgiveness, he will forgive you. But Satan will continue to remind you of your past and tell you God haven't forgiven you. He's the accuser of the brethren. And he tried to make them feel guilty. Yes. He will no longer be the ruler of the kingdom of the air. You hear me, church? Ephesians 2 verse 2 tells us. Hear what Ephesians 2 verse 2 says. Let us read what it says. Ephesians 2 verse 2 says, wherein in time past he walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now walk or worketh in the children of disobedience. So when you see a child behaving in a certain manner, that is disrespectful to authority and to the things of God, you know that there is a spirit that is in operation in that person's life. We need to drive that spirit out of that child in the name of Jesus. Hallelujah. The spirit of disobedience. So there is a spirit in the air that is at work. All that you see is going on. There is a spirit at work in the air. And that's why you see so much ungodly activity going on. But there is a time coming when Michael will throw that old red dragon out of the air. And he will come to the earth furious. Amen. He will no longer have access to the presence of God. So as I said, Satan has access to God's presence now. But there is a time coming when he will no longer have that access to God's presence. Ah, what a mighty God we serve. He will be restricted to the physical earth, but an awful time it will be when he is loose upon the people of the earth. It's not going to be pretty. Without any restraint on his malignant power, friends, he will have no restraint. Now the Holy Spirit restrain the powers of darkness, but there is a time coming when this red dragon, that old slew-foot devil, he will let loose on earth. Amen. The prophecy which tells of Satan's departure from his place in the heavenlies and the loss of his ability to access God's people, accuse God's people in his presence, give us the key to the present victory over Satan. The people of God overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Verse 11 tells us. In spite of Satan's accusation, the believer has victory as long as he surrenders to the control of the indwelling spirit. You must have the indwelling spirit to overcome the powers of darkness. When you allow the indwelling spirit, you have power. Amen. If Philippians 2, verse 13, what it says. Let me see if I can find that quickly in the Bible. Philippians 2, verse 13 says, "For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure." So, who is working in you? God. To his will. We are not perfect, but we are in the process of becoming like Jesus. One day, soon we shall be like him, for we shall see him face to face. Hallelujah. So this is the war the Bible talks about in the book of Revelation. Satan will come down to earth, my friend, and he will do some serious damage. While there is celebration in heaven over Satan and his fallen angel having been evicted, the earth will now find itself facing great tribulation. Satan, knowing as he does that his time is short, will now fully vent his fury against the woman. And the woman we refer to here is Israel. And those who have received Christ as their Savior. Although the Antichrist will have previously made the 7-year peace treaty with the woman Israel, after 3.5 years, he will break that agreement and cause the sacrifice and the abomination to cause that is referred to in Revelation, Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, as the Jewish temple will have been rebuilt at that time. He will place his own image, the abomination of desolation inside of the holies of holies. And we see that also in 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 4. Read it. So that he as God sitting in the temple of God. So he will go in and sit in the temple and proclaim that he is God, showing himself that he is God. The intensity with which Satan will attempt to destroy both Israel and all humankind will increase exponentially over the last 3.5 years. Yes, my friend. Oh my God. It's going to be a serious time. Tribulation period. Daniel 12 verse 1 tells us, and at that time shall Michael stand up, and the great prince which standeth for the children of the people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation. Matthew 24, my friends, verse 15 to 22, describe both the urgency of Israel's flight as well as how this time will be the worst the earth has ever known. Oh my God. This is when Israel must flee from her life, for her life, to the place in which the wilderness God has prepared for her. As for where she will flee, Isaiah chapter 16, verse 1 to 5, tells us it will be to Petra, which in biblical time was called Selah, meaning the rock. Where? The rock. It is located south and east of the Dead Sea in the present-day nation of Jordan. So that's where Israel will run to in the time of trouble, in the time of the tribulation, to Jordan. The two wings of a great eagle would suggest Israel flight being by airplane. It is likely that this flood of water which the serpent or the Antichrist caused out of his mouth to overtake her would indicate his sending army force after her, Israel. Should the water expelled from his mouth be an actual flood of water resulting from something like a breach of a dam, God is more than able to cause earthquake so that the earth open and swallow it up. Yes, this is mindful of the time God parted the Red Sea as Israel was being pursued by the Egyptian. Yes, but then close it before the Egyptian could escape. And we see that in Exodus 14, verse 21 to 28. Scripture, my friend. Then too, when Korah rebelled against Moses in the wilderness, God opened the earth and swallowed him up and all his family and all his men. We see that word again, Numbers 16, verse 27 to 33. So it doesn't matter what you are going through, my friend. God will protect his people. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the woman, remnant of her seed, which keep the commandment of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. As we see in Revelation chapter 13, it was given unto him, the Antichrist, to do what? To make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given to him over all the kindred, tongues, and nations. It bears repeating that the two groups of people upon whom this intensity persecution will be directed will be those in Israel which are keeping the commandment of God, and those tribulation saints who have accepted the testimony of Christ. Yes, only 1/3 of the Jewish people will survive this second half of the tribulation period. And we see that in Zechariah 13, verse 8, word again. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, says the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die. Oh my. But the 3rd part shall be left therein. This remnant, or the 3rd part, which survive, will go into the 1,000-year reign of their Messiah. The Lord Jesus Christ, as there are an estimate 15 to 16 million Jewish people living on the earth today. The 23rd, the 2/3 destined to perish will amount to 10 million. So this is what is going on in Revelation chapter 12, my friend. So let me encourage you. What can we learn from this lesson tonight? Is that even though Satan pursue you and try to overpower you, God will send help to deliver you, my friend. He will send help to deliver you. I encourage you out there in social media tonight that remember, God is more than victorious, and he always watching over us. He's a great, big, wonderful God, and we will always give him the glory for what he has done for us. Yes, I hope you understand that when the enemy comes in like a flood, God will raise up a standard against him. The enemy already lost the battle, lost the war. And remember, everything that you see going on now in the atmosphere, there is a prince of the air, the devil, that is at work. But there is a time coming when he will be cast down. He will no more have access to the presence of God. But for now, friend, he have access to the presence of God, and he go there daily to accuse us as brethren, as believers. He did it to Job. Yes. So every time the enemy tries to lead you away into committing sin, remember that Satan will go before God and say, look on John. And he say he is a Christian living for you. He say he's a man of God. Look what he is doing. Friends, let us open up our eyes. Satan is real. Let me pray. Father, we come to you today because you are able. You are a mighty God. You are everlasting Father. You are our Prince of Peace. And we give you thanks. Hallelujah. Oh God, we give you thanks. Oh God, we thank you for your blessing. And we know you will bring us through, oh God. Hallelujah. After all, we give you thanks. We worship you. Oh, hallelujah. Lord God, touch my brothers and sisters that are out there right now, God, that are struggling. Giving them grace, God, so that they can make it. For after all, oh God, when this life is over, oh God, I pray, remind them, God, remind them of your grace, that it is sufficient for all. Oh God, give them the faith. Those who are losing courage, those who are giving up hope, those who feel like they can't make it tonight, Lord God, I lift up their hand. I empower them. I give them strength in time of trouble. Lord God, that you will motivate them, that you will inspire them with your word tonight, oh God. Remind them of your faithfulness. Remind them of your goodness. Remind them of your peace, that it passes all understanding. After all, when this life is over, oh Jesus, and my labor is ended, and I climb up on the mountaintop so tall, looking over into that city, that beautiful city that my Savior is preparing. Give them grace. Give them grace, oh God. Amen. Bless you, my friend, for tuning in to A Time in the Word. God bless you all. Walk good from my heart to your heart. In Jesus' name.